Hi, love. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about dreaming and dreaming big and creating a vision for yourself, which I talk about all the time because it is always the first step to manifestation is you got to know where you're going in order to start going there, in order to get there, right? You have to know what kind of life you want. You want to have a vision for your life, for your business, for your money, for your future. So helpful to be intentional and check in with your spirit, your soul, yourself, and say, what do I really want? What feels authentic to me? What feels like the life that I want to create? What feels like what I want to express and what I want to experience in this lifetime? And I have to say, I have heard a lot of people, I've gotten a lot of clients who have gotten coached on this and have had people ask me, what happens if I'm stuck in that area? If I'm stuck in creating the vision? What if I am someone who feels like I'm really struggling to create that vision? Like I don't really know what I want. So that's why I wanted to record this podcast, because this is for you if you are struggling with getting clear on what you want, what that vision is for yourself. Because what I have most commonly found is that you are not actually getting stuck on the vision. You actually do know, in fact, what you want, right? But where you're probably getting stuck is on what you tell yourself after you think about the vision, right? Or after you come up with an idea of what that vision could be. The story that you tell yourself after you think about it is where most people actually get stuck. So let me walk you through an example of this, because I was just talking through and coaching with a client on this. And she thought she was stuck. She's like, I feel like I just can't create impossible goals. I feel like I can't be delusional. I feel like I have to be realistic. I feel like I can't create a vision. And so I said to her, okay, well, let me ask you this. If a magical little genie were to come into your world and say, I grant you all the wishes that you want for this lifetime, you just tell me what those are. What would you like? If I could grant you any wish in the divine timing of it, when it is meant to be for you, what are some of the things that you would ask for? What are some of the things that you would want? And she started listing things like one after the other. I'd love to take these vacations. I'd love to have this business with my husband. I'd love to manifest a house with this many bedrooms and a spare room and a big kitchen where I could cook. And I would love to create this much in revenue, right? She knew what she wanted, because I just basically said, if a genie were to grant your wish, what would that be? She knew what she would want to ask for. The problem was that if she decided, hey, this is what I want to manifest, what her brain would do is say, oh, that's unrealistic. How would you ever do that? I don't know how to do it. That seems like it would be really far away, or that seems like it would be really complicated, and then this would happen in this way, right? And her brain would go into overwhelm about it, right? So it wasn't that she struggled with creating a vision. She struggled with the fact that her brain offered her thoughts about a big life, a big vision, that were telling her she couldn't have it, that were telling her it was going to be really hard and it was going to be really overwhelming, and she had to know how to do it in order to manifest it. So she would immediately feel defeated and then kind of shove away that dream and decide, oh, well, maybe that's not for me. Maybe I just need to get comfortable where I'm at, right? And I have seen this so many times that I wanted to create an episode on this, because I want to check in with you. If you are someone who struggles to create the vision, or maybe you're like, I do know how to create it, but then I get stuck on the how. My brain instantly wants to go to, how am I going to make this happen? I have no idea how. And if that is you, I will say that is totally normal, and it has to make sense, and it has to be realistic. Realistic in quotes, because y'all, realistic is a thought. It's not even true. There's no such thing as realistic. I mean, if you think about it, As kids, we were always taught we were supposed to create, explore, grow, try new things. Every year was a new year, a new opportunity, new learnings. We were supposed to be growing. That was the realistic expectation when we were younger. But I don't know what it is. Something happens as adults where we're socialized to believe that whatever we start to create in our 20s is kind of realistic. And we're basically just supposed to recreate the same things over and over and over. And we should set our goals based upon what we did this year, right? Whatever we did up until this point, that's kind of what's realistic for our future. And I just have to call BS on that because it's not realistic. Why is it realistic as a kid to keep growing and then as an adult to stay stagnant? And it's only quote unquote realistic to kind of recreate what you've ever created before, or maybe take like 2 steps forward. I just want to call BS on that. There's no such thing as realistic, right? And I also always say, be delusional. That's because no matter what you're thinking, it's delusional, right? Everything that we are thinking about in the future is just a delusion. It is not necessarily realistic. So it's delusional if you think that the only thing that you're capable of doing is creating something that is too, notches higher than, no, I don't want to say it in that way. So it's totally delusional to think that next year you're only capable of creating 5% more than what you've created this year. And that is what is realistic. It's also delusional to think that you could double your income, right? No matter what you're thinking, it is delusional because it's just a thought. It's just an idea. It's just a vision. It's a delusion, right? But we can use these delusions in our favor because what we think about most often and what we visualize as possible for us is what we typically end up creating. So I have to say, realistic is just a thought. It is just an idea. It is not a fact. There's no such thing as this is actually what's realistic. And same with delusional, no matter what you think, whether it is something you've created before or something you've never created or something you're dreaming big about, it's a delusion because it is just a thought, right? It's an illusion in your brain. So let's pick the illusion and be delusional in a way that serves us and that actually feels empowering and exciting, right? So to think a thought like, I can't do it. I have to know how. It has to make sense. It has to be realistic. That's all delusional thinking, just as much as it's delusional to think, I can. Of course I'm going to do it. Anything is possible. Miracles can happen. Miracles happen every single day. I'm going to be guided. Both of them are just thoughts. They are illusions in our brain. But whatever one we're going to give energy to and focus on and see the vision of is most likely what we will end up creating. So I just want to debunk the idea that there is such a thing as creating a realistic life and a realistic goal. No, that's delusional too, right? So pick the delusion that you like better. And here is what we have to practice. If you are someone who gets stuck in the how around your vision, or you have this big dream and you do know what you actually want, right? You say, this is what my soul wants to experience. I know this is actually what I want. If a genie were to grant me some wishes, these would be the wishes. But if your brain does that thing where it shuts you down and says, I can't do it, it's not possible, this is where we are now, it's so far from there, it's going to be really complicated, I don't even know how to take the first step. How would I even move towards that? And you get really overwhelmed. I want to teach you how to work with that and how to reprogram that part of your brain that comes after you see the vision, right? You see that vision and we gotta decide, what do we want the self-talk to be after we decide on that vision or we see a vision for ourselves? Because that, no matter what the story is going to be a delusion. It's going to be unrealistic because everything is unrealistic. But whatever story you give into and tell more often is most likely going to play out. So if you keep saying, I can't, it's not possible, I don't know how, that is what will play out for you, because it's going to feel defeating. You're probably not going to take action towards it. It's going to shut down your creativity and you will not create that thing. And then it will prove to you that you have a realistic life and that you shouldn't dream big, right? You're just going to keep cycling that thought and create that reality for you. Versus if you decide on purpose, you're going to have to practice intentional thinking here, intentional storytelling, and you're going to have to practice some mantras, right? Especially if your programming is to say, I don't know how, I need to know how. What you want to start doing is telling a new story. So for example, you create the vision, you just decide, okay, if a genie were to grant me these wishes, this is what I'd want to experience in my life. This is how much money I'd want to make. This is the kind of business I'd like to have. This is where I'd like to live. This is the vacation that I'd like to take. This is what I want for my family. This is what I want for generosity and giving and for my money and all of that goodness. You decide on that vision, and then you have to practice thought work and practice telling these mantras, these stories of things like, anything's possible. This is possible for me. I don't know how, but I don't need to know how. I don't have to know how in order to do it. I just have to take the next step. Just have to move towards this vision. Anything is possible for me. Miracles happen every single day. One of my favorite thoughts is I create any vision that I set out, or anything I put my mind to, I end up creating. These kind of thoughts open ourselves up to more empowerment. And also what it does when you're thinking thoughts like, maybe I can, or anything is possible. This is possible for me. I don't have to know how. It's a little uncomfortable dreaming and I am uncertain, but I'm going to move towards it. I'm going to create this vision and decide this is where I'm headed. And I am so excited to see how it all unfolds. When you create a story like that, what that does to your energy and your system is it opens you up versus closing you down, right? The part of you, the old part of you that had the story of, I need to know how, I have no idea how, I've never done it before, that closes you. It closes your energy. When you feel defeated, that closes your energy. So I want to talk a little bit about this, right? This is at least how I see it and how I've experienced it. And I've worked with hundreds of clients and just witness this time and time again, that when they start opening up to possibility and to this could be possible for me, it opens their energy, right? That's how I think of it. And whenever I say energy, I mean, it feels expansive. It's like, what is the emotion that generates for you when you start telling yourself it's possible, or maybe I can, or I don't have to know how. That's totally okay. It can happen for me. It is happening. I am being guided. Imagine how that feels in your body. I imagine it creates an openness. The feeling is expansive. It's open. It's curious. It's excited. I'm anticipating it, right? These are open feelings versus something like defeat, which is a closed feeling. So when you experience these open feelings, what I have noticed is this is where your intuition gets stronger. This is where you're able to receive divine guidance. This is where you're all of a sudden not thinking about it, but an idea pops into your mind about what to do next, right? Or sometimes I've even noticed, this is the universe, right? Is that synchronicities start happening in my life. So I'm going to give you an example of something that felt totally impossible to me, but I did not shut myself down and say I can't do it, and I didn't create the feeling of defeat. Instead, I said, miracles happen every day. I'm going to create it. I'm going to manifest it. I know how to manifest. I just need to focus on my manifestation practices, seeing this vision. I felt really open, and I want to tell you a story about this. So it was with my condo in Maui. Right? So my husband and I decided a couple years ago that we wanted to have a second home in Maui. We wanted to be able to go there and experience it. And we were already traveling there all the time, but we wanted our own place to go to. And I got clear on that vision. It was something I've wanted for the longest time, but we just decided we were going to manifest it. Now, the circumstances were not aligned for this thing, meaning we did not have extra money in our account for a second home, like at all, right? It didn't make sense financially. The circumstances were not aligned with this dream. So it would be so easy for me to say, well, that's so unrealistic. That would add so much more expenses. We don't have the inflow for that. We don't have the money for it. There's no way we would need this huge down payment for it. So it would be so easy for me to look at current circumstances and shut myself down and say, this isn't possible. But I know the power of manifestation. And at that point, I had been practicing manifestation and knowing that miracles happen every day. And when I decide I want something, I will absolutely create it. And I don't have to know how. So what I did was I just decided I'm going for this thing. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know the timing it's going to happen, but I am so excited for it. And all I did was practice seeing the vision of it. I practiced seeing ourselves having our place there. I just had fun with it, right? Like I created a vision board around it of what I wanted this place to be like, what I wanted it to feel like, what it was going to feel like going back and forth and having that as a retreat. And I just got into the feeling and the anticipation and the excitement for it, believing that the universe would conspire on my behalf. And somehow, some way, this was going to happen. And that I didn't have to know how, but I was going to enjoy the journey there and I was going to have fun manifesting it. And in the meantime, I was just going to have fun visualizing it and seeing it for myself and dreaming about it with my husband. And I started looking at places on Zillow and looking at different condos. I started researching real estate agents. And honestly, the circumstances were not aligned. It made no sense to start looking because I did not have the money in my account. But what is so wild, like I said, when you come from that open place of anything is possible, I believe in miracles, I believe in my ability to create this thing. What happens oftentimes is that the universe aligns circumstances for you. And one by one, maybe you'll just get the next step. Maybe something will happen that makes the possibility heighten a bit, right? So for us, it was the most wild thing ever. It was probably 2 weeks after we decided this is what we want, right? We really claimed it because we had been dreaming about it for years, but we both together, Josh and I, decided this is what we want to do next. This is such a fun manifestation. We cannot wait for this vision. It just felt so soul aligned. And we claimed that. And it was probably 2 weeks later that we get a call. Well, Josh got a call, not me. Josh got a call from his lawyer. And she doesn't usually call him, but they've had a relationship forever. He's really close to her. And she basically said, hey, like, no pressure at all. I get nothing out of this. I just wanted to let you know that you could sell a portion of your publishing from your songwriting, and it's going at an all-time high. People are making incredible offers, and so just something to think about, right? And this was something we never thought about. Like, Josh never thought about the idea of selling a portion of his publishing, right? But we started to do the research on it because she called 2 weeks after we decided on this thing and saw, wait a minute, this makes amazing sense. And what if we transferred it, thought of it like this? Your publishing money, right? That's an investment in some way, right? If we were to hold on to it. But we could take a portion of that and just invest it into a condo. And what if that would help us get there faster? And little by little, we kept exploring it. And it ended up aligning and it ended up making so much sense. And it was wild because we ended up getting the exact amount we needed for a down payment, which that was what felt sticky. We were like, maybe our income could go up, but how are we going to get a down payment for the condo? And that revealed itself because I swear, some people could say, oh, that was a total coincidence, but I've seen this too much to just believe in coincidences. When you open your energy, when you decide something is possible for you and just go for it, even though you don't know how it's going to happen, I swear to you, watch the synchronicities that occur. When you believe that you are worthy of it and deserving of it and that you can have it and that anything is possible and that the universe is working in your favor, watch what happens. It is the most wild thing. So we ended up, and of course, this took like a whole year to kind of play out, but that's how we ended up getting the down payment for it. And simultaneously, in that year, my income went up significantly by about 3 times, right? I 3 times my income, which gave us enough for the mortgage, right? Where we really felt solid and comfortable taking on a second mortgage. And that right there is just one little piece of like a fun example of how this can happen. And that's not the only time, right? Like I see this all the time, not only in myself whenever I decide to manifest something and decide that I'm worthy and capable of it and I'm ready for it, but I see this kind of stuff happening for my clients. And we do celebrations in the money manifestation movement every Friday, and I see these kinds of celebrations so often. So I wanted to share this story with you because I don't actually ever believe that you are really struggling with your dreams. I don't believe that you don't know how to create a vision. I actually do think you know what you want and that you can check in with your soul and say, what do I really want for myself, right? And oftentimes it's, what do I not want? And the dream will come from the opposite of that, right? Knowing what you don't want also helps you know what you do want. So I do believe that you have a vision inside of you. I think that it's just the story that you tell yourself about what's possible for you that is where you get stuck in that. So I want you to consider that. And I want this to be an opportunity for reflection on what is the self-talk that happens. I want you to slow down and start noticing, using that skill of recognizing your own thinking, recognizing the stories that you tell. Ask yourself, what are the thoughts that I have after I do think about what I want, right? After I do dream big or think about a vision for myself, what is the self-talk that comes up? What is the most common feeling that happens initially that maybe shuts me down? And just notice that. And notice that, thank goodness, this is just a story that was created in your mind. It doesn't make it true. In fact, it's not true. And this is where you have full agency. This is where you get to decide, do I want to keep this story or do I want to change it? Because it is just a string of words put together into a sentence that creates a story, that creates an emotion in your body, and it doesn't mean it's true, right? And then what you can do is say, well, what would I want to practice around my dreams? Like if I create a vision for myself, if I create a vision board, what's the story I want to tell myself about creating that? And I'm going to give you some thoughts that you can try on and see how they feel for you. In fact, for this client who was struggling with this, I encouraged her to create not only a vision board with the vision of what she wanted, but to also put some mantras and sentences about the possibility of creating it on that vision board so that she could practice those while she was looking at the vision. And some of those thoughts are, it could be possible. That might be a bridge thought, right? Or anything is possible. I'm open to miracles. I don't have to know how. I'm so excited to create this. Being in the anticipation is so much fun. And start thinking about how exciting it would be to create this, right? Get yourself excited about the vision, but it's really important to start telling yourself, I can. It is possible. I can do something like this. Even if I've never done something like this before, I can do it and I don't have to know how. As long as I stay open to it, the universe is going to support me and help me out and guide me one step at a time in divine timing. And that I know. And so if you start telling yourself that story, it's going to open your energy, right? And think of it like that. Does it feel open? Does it feel exciting? Does it feel expansive? Or does it feel closed? If it feels closed, just practice new ways of thinking about it that open you back up. Anything is possible. I don't have to know how. I've created lots of things that I didn't know how I was going to create it, but I did it anyways, right? Start looking for evidence of how that's true. And practice a new story around your vision, and I swear it will change everything. So I want to encourage you to practice this and let me know how the experience is for you, because this could absolutely change everything. Before I wrap this episode up, I want to share one quote that really resonates with this episode, and it's by Henry Ford, right? Who created the Ford cars, basically. And he said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So if you tell yourself, I can, you're right. You will do it. If you tell yourself, I can't, you're also right. You won't do it. So this one thought could be so powerful to ingrain in your brain, and you might have to tell it to yourself 1,000 times a day. I can. I can. I can. What if I can? What if I can? What if I can? All right? All right, my loves. Happy manifesting, happy envisioning. Enjoy the journey. Cannot wait to hear the effects of this.